Chapter 1, Section 4, Biotalk, Changing Population Sizes. 4 rates determine population size. The size of a population changes through time. Suppose a biologist counted 700 ponderosa pines on a hill in Colorado in 1990. In 2000, when the biologist counted the trees again, there were only 500. In other words, there were 200 fewer trees in 2000 than in 1990. There are many reasons that a population of trees may decrease. These include forest fires and logging. What else may contribute to the decrease of population? This is a decrease in the population of ponderosa pines. This change in population may be expressed as a rate. To find the rate, you divide the amount of change by the amount of time for the change to take place. The rate is an average. In this example, the rate of change in the number of trees divided by the change in time may be expressed as 200 trees divided by 10 years equals negative 20 trees per year. Let me say that again. I apologize. Negative 200 trees divided by 10 years equals negative 20 trees per year. So they took negative 200 divided by 10, and they got the negative 20. To the biologist, this means each year there were 20 fewer trees in the population. Keep in mind, however, that this rate is an average. It is unlikely the trees disappeared on a regular schedule. All of the trees may have been lost in one year due to a fire. Alternatively, selective cutting during several years may have caused the decrease. What does the decrease of 200 pine trees in 10 years represent? Because pine trees cannot wander away, they must have died or been cut down. In this situation, then, the decrease represents the death rate or mortality rate of the pine population. The number of deaths in the pine population per unit of time is the mortality rate. Mortality is not the only change that can affect a population, however. While some of the pines may have died, some young pine trees may have started to grow from seed. Death decreases a population, reproduction increases it. The rate at which reproduction increases the population is called the birth rate or natality. Organisms that can move have 2 other ways to bring about a change in population size. Suppose you were studying the pigeon population in your city or town. You might discover that a certain number of pigeons flew into the city one year. This is called immigration. It occurs when one or more organisms move into an area where others of their type can be found. Immigration increases the population. While studying the pigeons, you might notice that a certain number flew out of the city. This is called emigration. It occurs when organisms leave the area. Emigration decreases the population. In any population that can move, then, natality and immigration increase the population. Mortality and emigration decrease the population. Thus, the size of any population is the result of the relationships among these rates. Let's read this caption for this image. The number of individuals of a species that move into and out of an area will affect the size of a population. Natality, mortality, immigration, and emigration rates apply to every population, including the human population. The sum of these rates makes up the growth rate of a population. The growth rate of a population is the number of organisms added to or subtracted from a population in a year due to natural increase and net migration. Often, this rate is expressed as a percentage of the population at the beginning of the time period. Population density may fluctuate. Any population has a built-in characteristic growth rate. This is the rate at which the group would grow if food and space were unlimited and individuals bred freely. Environmental factors do affect a population's growth rate, however. The interaction of the population's natural growth rate and the environment determines the density of the surviving population. The maximum number of individuals that a given environment can support is called the carrying capacity. Although there is a variation among species, female ducks lay about 10 eggs per nesting attempt. The overall strategy for these birds is to get as many eggs out there as they can in the hopes that at least some will make it. If you measure the density of a population at intervals during a given period of time, you seldom find any two consecutive measurements the same. Density increases or decreases continually. Most natural populations are open populations. These are populations in which individuals are free to emigrate or immigrate, and in which the birth and death rates fluctuate. Variables in the environment, such as climate, available food, or the activities of natural enemies, are the causes of the fluctuations. In a closed population, birth rate and death rate are the only factors that affect the size of the population. The island of reindeer you studied in Part A is an example of a closed population. Sometimes population fluctuations are fairly regular, and the peaks are at approximately equal time intervals. For example, populations of lemmings often peak every 3 or 4 years. Many of the animals that live in northern parts of Europe, Asia, and North America show similar population cycles. Although the data show very regular cycles when they are plotted on a graph, the reasons for the seemingly regular cycles are not well understood. A combination of purely chance events also can produce apparently regular cycles. Although populations may change cyclically, many population changes are permanent. If a population becomes extinct, for example, the change is permanent. Any permanent change in a population is a change in the community to which the population belongs. Permanent changes in one population may affect other populations of organisms in the same community. Lemmings are known for repeated population explosions. During the peak, the population may increase 1,000 times. Food becomes scarce, and lemmings must migrate to new areas.